Individualistic versus collectivist societies, cultural identities and differences. To understand individualistic and collectivist societies, you must first understand their origins, which is Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory. Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory can be defined as the reference to cross-cultural differences in culture, defined as the collective programming of the mind that distinguishes the members of one group or category of people from others. However, an article from Very Well Mind simplifies this definition and defines it as a framework for understanding how cultural values shape behavior in societies. The cultural dimensions theory highlights six key aspects: power distance, individualism and collectivism, masculinity and femininity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence and restraint. Today we will be focusing on individualism and collectivist societies. What is an individualistic society? An individualistic society is a culture which emphasizes the needs of the individual over the group. An example of this can be Western cultures such as the United States, France, and Canada. Some traits of individualistic societies. They tend to value individual choice, personal freedom, and self-actualization, have a greater emphasis on self-fulfillment, tend to be more self-reliant. They put independence, competition, and personal achievement at much importance, and individuals compete between each other in contrast to groups. Some pros and cons of individualistic societies. They tend to have stronger self-esteem as a whole. They emphasize self-confidence, have an increased self-sufficiency, and overall greater well-being compared to collective societies. However, some cons is that they tend to exhibit less pro-social behavior, which is any action at the benefit of another, are less likely to request help when needed, and tend to experience greater stress. Now, what is a collective society? A collective society is a culture which emphasizes the needs of the group over the individual. An example of this can be Southeastern countries such as Japan and South Korea. Some traits of collective societies is their definition of self being in relation to others, decisions being made accounting for the wants and needs of the group, greater consideration of social norms, emphasis on relationships even if it's disadvantageous for the individual, and groups compete between each other in contrast to individual societies. Some pros and cons. Some pros being that they have a higher sense of community and harmony, a stronger sense of empathy for others, and increased feelings of support due to close proximity of friends and family. However, some cons is that the individuality can be seen as disharmony. Conflict is increasingly avoided due to not wanting to disrupt such harmony, a lack of pursuit of individual goals as well. Now, what determines if a culture becomes individualistic or collectivist according to Harry Triandis in 1984? Firstly, a complexity of society. Industrial societies typically have more groups to identify with, creating a better environment for greater focus on personal rather than collective goals. Secondly, an affluent society, as increased prosperity brings conditions of financial independence and mobility. And finally, heterogeneity. Homogeneous groups tend to be intolerant of those that stray from the norm. In contrast to culturally diverse ones, they are much more permissive, allowing for better self-expression and increased self-expression in general. In conclusion, this major aspect of Hofstede's cultural dimensions theory has been shown to be an integral part of our understanding of differentiating values across regions, further allowing us to better understand and gain new perspectives on different cultures, behaviors, their practices and social norms, as well as those from different walks of life, and being able to apply it in our own everyday lives. And these are my references. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good one.